I was sitting in the billing office at Mount Sinai Hospital when I realized my mother cared more about flowers than my survival. The woman behind the desk, her name tag said Linda, looked at me with tired eyes and repeated what she'd just said. "Miss Cole, we can't schedule your next infusion until the outstanding balance is addressed." I stared at the paper in front of me. $8,400. That was what stood between me and my next round of chemotherapy. I was 28 years old. I had stage 2 breast cancer. And I'd just been told I couldn't continue treatment because I couldn't afford it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion, the kind that came from 6 weeks of poison dripping through a port in my chest, from losing my hair in clumps in the shower, from throwing up so hard I thought my ribs would crack, the kind that came from waking up every morning wondering if the treatment was even working, or if I was just destroying my body for nothing. "Can I make a payment plan?" I asked. Linda's face softened. "We can discuss that, but the balance needs to be brought below $5,000 before we can proceed with scheduling." $5,000. I had maybe $800 in my checking account. My insurance had covered most of the treatment so far, but the co-pays and deductibles were piling up faster than I could manage. And I was already behind on rent. "How long do I have?" I asked quietly. "Ideally, we'd like to schedule your next session within the next 2 weeks. If we push it past that, we risk disrupting the treatment protocol." I nodded. I didn't cry. I'd learned not to cry in public anymore. Crying made people uncomfortable. It made them look away. It made them treat you like you were already gone. I walked out of the office, sat down on a bench outside the hospital, and called my mom. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Ariana?" Her voice was bright, too bright, the kind of cheerful that only comes when someone is performing for an audience. "I can't talk long, sweetie. I'm at the church with Sloane. We're finalizing the deposit." I froze. "The deposit?" "For the wedding," she said, like it was obvious. "The church ceremony package, you know, the sanctuary rental, the music coordinator, the officiant fee. It's more than we thought, but it's worth it. Sloane deserves the perfect day." I could hear my sister's voice in the background, laughing about something. Bright, carefree, healthy. "Mom," I said slowly, "I just left the hospital. They're holding my next chemo session until I pay down my bill." There was a pause. Not the kind where someone is processing bad news. The kind where someone is deciding how to respond. The kind where you can hear someone choosing their words carefully. "Oh, honey," she said finally. Her voice shifted, just a little, softer, but also dismissive. "We'll figure it out. But I really have to go. The coordinator is waiting. I'll call you later, okay?" "Mom." "I love you, sweetie. I'll call you tonight." Before I tell you what happened when I saw the invoice, drop your city or country in the comments so I know where you're all watching from. And if you've ever dealt with a family that prioritizes the wrong daughter, hit like and subscribe, because this story gets so much worse. She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone for a full minute. My mom, Yvonne Cole, the woman who'd raised me, who'd driven me to my first chemo appointment and held my hand while they inserted the port, who told me I was strong, that I could beat this, had just told me she couldn't talk because she was paying for my sister's wedding. And I realized something. This wasn't new. This was just the first time it might actually kill me. I looked down at my hands. They were pale, thin. The veins stood out more than they used to. My nails were brittle from the chemo. My skin was dry and cracked no matter how much lotion I used. I looked like a shadow of myself. And my mom couldn't spare 5 minutes to talk to me because she was booking a church for my sister. I put my phone in my bag, stood up, and walked to the subway. My legs felt heavy. My chest ached where the port sat under my collarbone. But I kept walking. because I didn't know what else to do. And that night, when my mom finally called me back, she didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask what the hospital said. She didn't ask if I was okay. She asked if I'd be willing to wear ivory to the wedding, because Sloane wanted a cohesive color palette. And I said yes. Because that's what I always did. I need you to understand something about my mother before this goes any further. Ivanka wasn't cruel. She wasn't a monster. She didn't hit me. She didn't scream at me. She didn't lock me in closets or tell me I was worthless. She was just someone who'd spent her entire life building an image. And my sister Sloane fit that image better than I ever did. My mom was what people at church called a pillar of the community. She was on the women's ministry board. She organized the annual fundraiser. She led Bible study on Wednesday nights. She was the kind of woman who wore pearls to Sunday service and made sure everyone knew her daughters were blessed. And Sloane was the blessing everyone could see. Sloane was 25. She was engaged to Evan Price, a youth pastor at our church in Brooklyn. She was beautiful, bubbly, the kind of person who posted Bible verses on Instagram and got 300 likes. She had perfect skin, perfect hair, a perfect smile. She sang in the worship band. She led the college group. She was everything my mother wanted in a daughter. I was the older one, the quiet one, the one who worked in nonprofit admin and lived in a studio apartment in Queens and didn't post much online. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't showy. I just existed. And when I got diagnosed with breast cancer 6 months ago, I became an inconvenience. Not at first. At first, my mom was amazing. She came to appointments. She brought me soup. She prayed over me in the hospital. She posted vague things on Facebook about trusting God through trials, and people left heart emojis and commented, praying for your family. But then Sloane got engaged. And suddenly, everything shifted. The calls got shorter. The visits got less frequent. My mom started every conversation with, "How are you feeling?" and ended it with, "Did I tell you what Sloane decided about the bridesmaids?" At first, I didn't mind. I wanted Sloane to be happy. I wanted her to have a beautiful wedding. I thought maybe my mom was just trying to keep things positive, to give me something happy to focus on while I was going through treatment. But then the wedding planning took over everything. Every family dinner was about the church venue, the floral arrangements, the reception hall. Every text thread was photos of dresses and cake samples. Every conversation ended with my mom saying, "This is going to be the most beautiful day. Everyone at church is so excited." And I sat there, balled under a wig, trying not to throw up from the nausea meds, wondering when someone was going to ask how I was doing. No one did. 2 weeks after that phone call outside the hospital, I was at my parents' house in Brooklyn for Sunday dinner. My dad, Marcus, was grilling chicken in the backyard. Sloane was sitting at the kitchen table, showing my mom photos of centerpiece options on her phone. I was exhausted. I'd had an infusion 2 days earlier, and I still felt like my bones were made of lead. My whole body ached. My mouth tasted like metal. I'd forced myself to come because my mom had said it would mean so much to Sloane if you were there. "Ari, what do you think?" Sloane held up her phone. "Gold or ivory?" I glanced at the screen. 2 nearly identical photos of table settings. Ivory. "Really?" Mom said. "Gold." "Then go with gold," I said quietly. My mom looked over from where she was chopping vegetables. "You feeling okay, Ariana? You look tired." "I'm fine." She nodded and went back to talking to Sloane about napkin folds. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. While I was washing my hands, I saw it. A piece of paper on the counter, half tucked under a hand towel. An invoice. St. Luke's Episcopal Church. Wedding ceremony package. Deposit paid, $12,000. Date paid, October 18th. Balance due, $8,000. I stared at it. $12,000. For a church wedding deposit. Not the whole wedding, just the deposit. Just to lock in the date, the sanctuary, the coordinator, the musicians. I picked up the paper with shaking hands and read it again. The date paid was 3 days after I'd called my mom from the hospital. 3 days after she'd told me, "We'll figure it out," about my medical bills. She'd had $12,000, and she'd spent it on a church. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked like a ghost. My skin was gray. My eyes were sunken. The wig I was wearing, a cheap one I'd bought online because I couldn't afford the nice ones, sat slightly crooked on my head. I looked like I was dying. And my mother had just spent $12,000 on flowers and music. I walked back out to the living room and sat down on the couch. Sloane and my mom were still talking about centerpieces. My dad came in from the backyard with a plate of chicken. "Dinner's ready," he said. We all sat down. We said grace. We ate. And no one asked me how I was feeling. No one asked if I needed anything. No one asked if I was scared. They just talked about the wedding. And I realized something as I sat there, forcing down bites of chicken I couldn't taste. My mother had made a choice. She'd chosen Sloane's perfect day over my survival. And I was starting to understand that "we'll figure it out" didn't mean she was going to help me. It meant I was supposed to figure it out on my own. I kept the invoice in my bag for 3 days before I did anything with it. I didn't confront my mom, I didn't text her, I didn't call. I just carried it around with me like evidence at a crime scene, waiting to see if she'd bring it up herself. She didn't. Instead, she called me on Thursday afternoon while I was lying on my couch trying to keep down saltines. "Ariana, sweetie," she said, "I need to ask you something." I sat up slowly, my head spun. "What?" "Sloane wants you to be a bridesmaid." I blinked. "Okay. But the dresses are $250 each. Can you cover that, or do you need help?" I stared at the ceiling. $250. "I know it's a lot," she said quickly, "but they're really beautiful. Sloane picked them out herself, and you'd look so pretty in ivory." I thought about the invoice in my bag, the $12,000 deposit, the $8,400 hospital bill sitting on my kitchen counter. "Mom," I said slowly, "I can't afford a $250 dress right now." "Oh." There was a pause. "Well, maybe you can save up? The wedding's not until June." "I'm behind on my medical bills." Another pause. Longer this time. "Right, well, let me talk to Sloane. Maybe we can figure something out." She hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Then I opened my email and started scrolling. I found what I was looking for in about 10 minutes. An email my mom had forwarded to me 2 months ago, back when she was still pretending to care about my treatment. It was a group message she'd sent to family and friends, asking for prayers and support. The subject line read, "Urgent. Help Ariana fight cancer." I read the message again. It was long, emotional, full of Bible verses and pleas for prayer. At the bottom, there was a line that made my stomach turn. "If you feel called to help financially, every bit makes a difference. Ariana's medical costs are overwhelming, and we're trusting God to provide." I screenshotted it. Then I went back to my bank app and looked at the deposit history. Nothing. No money had ever been transferred to me from my mom. Not a dollar. Which meant one of two things. Either no one had donated, or my mom had kept the money. I didn't know which was worse. That night, I went through my phone. I took screenshots of everything. The text where my mom said, "We'll figure it out." The voicemail where she told me she couldn't talk because of the wedding deposit. The invoice I'd found in her bathroom. The email asking for donations. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet, but I knew I was going to need them, because something was becoming very clear to me. My mother wasn't going to help me. She was going to let me drown while she threw my sister a party. And if I was going to survive this, not just the cancer, but the family, I needed proof. The confrontation happened on a Saturday morning. I'd finally scraped together enough money to make a payment on my hospital bill, $2,000, borrowed from my best friend Keisha with a promise I'd pay her back when I could. It wasn't enough to get me back on schedule, but it bought me a little more time. I was exhausted. I'd had another infusion 2 days earlier, and the nausea was worse this time. I couldn't keep anything down except ginger ale and crackers. My body hurt everywhere. My chest ached around the port. My hands were numb from the nerve damage the chemo was causing. But I needed to talk to my mom. I drove to her house in Brooklyn, parked on the street, and sat in my car for 5 minutes, trying to gather the strength to walk to the door. When I finally went inside, my mom was in the kitchen making coffee. She smiled when she saw me. "Ariana, I didn't know you were coming. You should have called." "I need to talk to you," I said. Her smile faltered. "Okay, sit down. Do you want some coffee?" "No," I stayed standing. "I need help with my medical bills." She set the coffee pot down carefully. "Honey, we've talked about this." "No, we haven't," I said. "You've said, we'll figure it out, but we haven't figured anything out. I'm $8,400 behind, and they won't schedule my next treatment until I pay." My mom sighed. "Ariana, I know it's hard, but—" "I need $5,000, I said. "That's what the hospital needs to let me continue treatment." She stared at me. "Ariana, we don't have that kind of money right now." I pulled the invoice out of my bag and set it on the counter between us. "You had $12,000 for Sloane's wedding deposit." Her face went pale. "That's different," she said quietly. "How?" "That money was earmarked for the wedding. We'd been saving for it." "For how long?" She didn't answer. "Mom," I said, "how long have you been saving for Sloane's wedding?" "A few months," she said defensively. "We wanted to make sure she had the wedding she deserved." "And what about me?" I asked. "What do I deserve?" "Don't do this," she said, her voice hardening. "Don't make this about you." "It is about me," I said. "I have cancer. I need treatment. And you're telling me you can't help because you spent $12,000 on a church." "Your sister's wedding is important," she snapped. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Your treatment—" She stopped herself. "My treatment what?" I said quietly. She looked away. "This is bad timing, Ari." I stared at her. "What?" "Your chemo bills," she said, not meeting my eyes. "They're bad timing. Sloane's wedding is already so expensive, and we've committed to so much. We can't just—" "Bad timing," I repeated. She finally looked at me. I didn't mean it like that. But she did. I could see it in her face. She meant exactly that. My cancer, my life, was bad timing. Because it was inconvenient. Because it was expensive. Because it didn't fit into her perfect image of the perfect family with the perfect church wedding. I picked up the invoice and put it back in my bag. "Okay," I said. "Ariana, I'm leaving." "Don't be dramatic," she said. "We'll figure something out." I walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. "No," I said, "we won't, because you've already figured it out. You chose Sloane. You chose the wedding. You chose the image, and I'm done waiting for you to choose me." I left. And I didn't look back. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear from my mother. No calls, no texts, no messages asking if I was okay, if I'd made the payment, if I'd figured out how to survive. Nothing. But I heard about her, because everyone at church made sure I knew. It started with a text from my Aunt Patrice, my dad's sister. She was the only one in the family who'd ever called my mom out on anything, the only one who didn't treat Yvonne Cole like she walked on water. Just left Sunday service. Your mom gave a speech about sacrifice and motherhood. Whole room was in tears. Thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened Instagram. My mom had posted a photo. Her and Sloane at the church, standing in front of the sanctuary doors. They were both smiling, arms around each other. The caption read, "Blessed beyond measure to walk this journey with my baby girl. Motherhood is sacrifice, and I'd do anything for my daughters. Hashtag wedding planning, hashtag fate and family, hashtag proud mom." The comments were exactly what you'd expect. "You're such an amazing mom. Sloane is so lucky to have you. This is what unconditional love looks like." I closed the app and threw my phone across the couch. 3 days later, Keisha called me. "You need to come to brunch with me," she said. "I can't," I said. "I'm too tired." "Ariana," she said firmly, "you need to leave your apartment. You need to eat something that isn't crackers. And you need to tell me what's going on because I know something's wrong." She picked me up an hour later. We went to a diner in Queens, and I told her everything. The invoice, the wedding deposit, the bad timing line, the Instagram post. Keisha listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her fork and said, "You're not going back there." "What?" "To that family. To that church. To any of it. You're done." "I can't just—" "Yes, you can," she said, "and you will, because they're killing you, Ari, not the cancer. Them." I didn't argue, because she was right. But it wasn't that simple. Because the next Sunday, my mom called. "Ariana," she said, "we need you at church this week." "Why?" "Sloane's having her bridal shower. It's at the church hall. The women's committee is hosting it, and it would look bad if you weren't there." I closed my eyes. "Mom, I don't think." "Ariana," she said, her voice sharpening, "this is important. Sloane is your sister. People are going to notice if you're not there. And frankly, after everything we've done for you, the least you can do is show up and be supportive." I wanted to hang up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her exactly what I thought of her and her perfect image and her perfect daughter. But I didn't. Because I realized something. If I didn't show up, she'd control the story. She'd tell everyone I was being difficult, ungrateful, dramatic. She'd make me the villain. But if I did show up, calm, quiet, with my receipts ready, I could control what happened next. "Okay," I said, "I'll be there." She sighed with relief. "Thank you, sweetheart. It means so much." The bridal shower was scheduled for the following Saturday at 2 p.m. I had 6 days to prepare. I spent those 6 days gathering everything I needed. I printed out the invoice. I screenshotted every text message, every voicemail, every Instagram post. I organized them in a folder on my phone, time-stamped and labeled. And I called Aunt Patrice. "I need a favor," I said. "Name it." "I need you at the bridal shower, and I need you to bring your loudest church friend." Patrice laughed. "You're about to blow this up, aren't you?" "I'm about to tell the truth," I said. "Good," she said. "It's about time." The church hall smelled like vanilla candles and fresh flowers. There were maybe 40 women there, all dressed in pastels, holding plates of finger sandwiches and fruit, smiling and laughing like this was the event of the season. My mom stood at the front of the room next to Sloane, beaming. She was wearing a cream-colored dress and pearls, her hair perfectly styled. She looked like a mother of the bride from a magazine. Sloane looked radiant, healthy, happy, everything I wasn't. I stood near the back, next to Keisha and Aunt Patrice. I was wearing a wig and a loose sweater to hide how much weight I'd lost. I looked like I belonged in a hospital, not a bridal shower. One of the women from the church committee, Sister Marlene, a woman in her 60s who ran the hospitality ministry, came over to me with a smile. "Ariana," she said warmly, "it's so good to see you, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "I'm okay," I said quietly. She patted my arm. "You're so brave. And you're so lucky to have a mother who sacrifices so much for you girls. Sister Yvonne is a blessing." I smiled tightly. "She's something." Sister Marlene didn't catch the tone. She just nodded and walked away. Keisha leaned over and whispered, "Did she really just say that?" "She did," I said. Aunt Patrice muttered, "This is about to be good." The shower went on for an hour. Games, gifts, laughter. My mom gave a speech about how proud she was of Sloane, how blessed she was to be her mother, how this wedding was going to be a testimony to God's faithfulness. Everyone clapped. Then Sister Marlene stood up. Before we close in prayer, she said, "I just want to take a moment to honor Sister Yvonne. This woman has poured so much love, time, and resources into making this wedding perfect. She's been at every meeting, every planning session, every detail, and she's done it all while supporting her other daughter through a difficult season." She gestured toward me. "Let's give Sister Yvonne a round of applause for being the kind of mother we all aspire to be." The room erupted in applause. My mom smiled, wiping away a tear like she was overwhelmed by the love. And I felt something snap inside me. Not anger, not sadness. Clarity. I stood up. The room went quiet. "Can I say something?" I asked. My mom's smile froze. "Ariana, this isn't..." "It'll just take a minute," I said. Sister Marlene nodded. "Of course, dear." I walked to the front of the room. My legs felt weak, but I kept moving. I looked at my mom, at Sloane, at the 40 women watching me. Sister Marlene just said my mom sacrifices so much for both of her daughters. I said, my voice was steady, calm, and I want to make sure everyone here knows exactly what that sacrifice looks like. My mom's face went pale. "Ariana," she said quietly, "don't do this." I pulled out my phone. 3 weeks ago, I said I was told I couldn't continue my chemotherapy treatment until I paid down my medical bills. The balance was $8,400. I called my mom and asked for help. The room was dead silent. She told me she couldn't talk because she was paying the deposit for Sloane's wedding. I held up my phone, showing the invoice. That deposit was $12,000. I heard someone gasp. When I asked her for $5,000 to continue my cancer treatment, I continued. She told me my chemo bills were bad timing because Sloane's wedding was too expensive. My mom stood up. "That's not..." "It's word for word, Mom," I said. I played the voicemail. Her voice filled the room. "This is bad timing, Ari. Sloane's wedding is already so expensive." The silence was suffocating. I looked at Sister Marlene, at the women staring at my mother with shock and confusion. "So yes," I said quietly, "my mom sacrifices, just not for me." I walked out. And this time, I didn't wait for anyone to follow. I made it to the parking lot before my legs gave out. I leaned against my car, breathing hard, my hands shaking. Not from the chemo this time, from adrenaline, from fear, from the realization that I'd just done something I could never take back. Keisha and Aunt Patrice came out a minute later. "That," Patrice said, "was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." I laughed. It came out shaky, almost like a sob. I just blew up my entire family. "No," Keisha said firmly, "you just told the truth. There's a difference. They're never going to forgive me. Good, Patrice said. They don't deserve to. My phone started buzzing. Text after text. Call after call. My mom, my dad, Sloane, cousins I hadn't talked to in years. Everyone had something to say. I didn't open any of them. Keisha drove me home. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, feeling numb. What happens now? I asked. Now, Keisha said, you let them fall apart without you. And they did. By Sunday night, my mom had deleted the Instagram post about sacrifice and motherhood. By Monday morning, 3 women from the church committee had quietly stepped back from helping with the wedding. By Tuesday, Sister Marlene called my Aunt Patrice and asked point blank if what I'd said was true. Patrice told her yes, and she told her everything else too. By Wednesday, my mom was in full damage control mode. She called me 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent long text messages. You humiliated me in front of the entire church. How could you do that to me? I've done everything for you. I've been there for you, and this is how you repay me? I didn't reply. Then she tried guilt. Sloane is devastated. She's crying every day. You've ruined her wedding. I hope you're happy. I blocked her number. My dad called next. Ariana, he said. His voice was tired, defeated. You need to apologize to your mother. For what? I asked. For embarrassing her? For airing private business in public? For making this about you when it's supposed to be about your sister? I was quiet for a long moment. Dad, I said slowly, did Mom tell you what she said to me? She said you were upset about money. She told me my cancer treatment was bad timing, I said. She spent $12,000 on a wedding deposit and then told me she couldn't help me pay for chemo. Silence. Dad? Your mother is under a lot of stress, he said finally. So am I said. I have cancer. I know, but nothing, I said. She made a choice. She chose Sloane's wedding over my life, and I'm done pretending that's okay. Ariana, please. I hung up. Then I turned my phone off completely. For 3 days, I didn't talk to anyone except Keisha and Patrice. I went to my follow-up appointment. I got my blood work done. I sat in the infusion chair and let the poison drip into my veins and tried not to think about anything except surviving. On Friday, Aunt Patrice called. You need to hear this, she said. What? The church pulled their support? I sat up. What do you mean? The women's committee. They're not helping with the wedding anymore. Sister Marlene said they can't, in good conscience, support a family that prioritizes a party over a daughter's cancer treatment. I didn't know what to say. It gets better, Patrice continued. 3 of the vendors found out what happened. The florist, the photographer, and the caterer. They all backed out. How? Because Sister Marlene's daughter is a wedding planner, and she called them personally, told them what your mother did. Told them they had the right to refuse service if they wanted to. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief, not satisfaction, just space, room to breathe. What did my mom say? She's losing her mind, Patrice said. She's been calling everyone, trying to explain, trying to spin it. But no one's listening. You know how church people are. Once the gossip starts, it doesn't stop. And Sloane? She's furious. At you, at your mom, at everyone. She tried to make a post on Instagram defending your mother, but people dragged her in the comments. She deleted it an hour later. I closed my eyes. Ari, Patrice said gently, are you okay? I don't know, I said honestly. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It will, she said. Give it time. The wedding fell apart slowly, then all at once. By the second week, my mom had lost control of the narrative completely. The church people talked. The vendors talked. Words spread through Brooklyn like wildfire. Did you hear about Sister Yvonne? She spent $12,000 on a wedding while her daughter couldn't afford chemo. It didn't matter that my mom tried to explain. It didn't matter that she posted a long Facebook message about being misunderstood, about how much she loved both her daughters, about how people didn't know the full story. Because they did know the full story. I'd given it to them, time-stamped, documented, undeniable. And the thing about a reputation built on performance is that once the mask cracks, people see everything you tried to hide. By the third week, Sloane and Evan had postponed the wedding. Not canceled, postponed. Because without the church committee, without the vendors, without the support system my mom had built her entire plan around, there was no way to pull it off. My mom blamed me for all of it. She sent me one final message from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed your sister's wedding. You've destroyed this family. And for what? For attention? For sympathy? You've always been selfish, Ariana. But this is unforgivable. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Because I realized something. My mom didn't see me as her daughter. She saw me as a problem, an inconvenience, a cost she couldn't afford. And I was done paying the price for her image. I finished my treatment in early December. The scans came back clear. The cancer was gone. I wasn't in remission yet. That would take time, but I was alive. Keisha threw me a small party. Just the two of us, Aunt Patrice, and a few friends from work. We ate cake, we laughed, we cried a little. And I realized something else. These people, this moment, this small apartment, with no family photos on the walls, this was freedom. On Christmas Eve, my mom tried one more time. She showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, standing in the hallway, holding a wrapped present. I didn't open the door. She knocked for 5 minutes, then she left the present on the floor and walked away. I left it there for 2 days before I finally opened it. Inside was a card. I'm sorry for everything. I love you. Please come home. Mom? No acknowledgement of what she'd said, no ownership of her choices. Just a blanket apology that meant nothing. I threw the card away. But I kept the box. Inside was a silver bracelet. Expensive, delicate. The kind of thing my mom gave when she wanted to fix something without actually fixing it. I put it in a drawer and closed it. On New Year's Eve, I posted on Instagram for the first time in months. It was a photo of me. No wig, no makeup, just me, bald and tired and alive. The caption read, "Survived cancer, survived chemo, survived a family that chose a wedding over my life. Here's to a year of choosing myself." The comments poured in. Proud of you. You're so strong. Your story saved me. And buried in the middle of them, one comment from an account I didn't recognize. I'm sorry. I didn't know if it was my mom. I didn't know if it was Sloane. I didn't know if it was someone else entirely. But I didn't respond. Because sorry wasn't enough anymore. And I didn't need it to be. If you've ever been the strong one who got punished for needing help, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you made it this far without subscribing, that's fine. I survived my own mother, I'll survive you too. But subscribing would have been nice. Here's what I learned. You don't win by making them hurt. You don't win by making them see. You win by walking away. By building a life that's yours. By finding people who celebrate you without conditions. My mom spent $12,000 on my sister's wedding deposit, then told me my cancer treatment was bad timing. And that was the day I realized my survival was non-negotiable. I didn't destroy them. I just stopped letting them destroy me. And that was enough.